El Scorcho. Follow the money. Why? Because war stocks are up. Yay! So, I'm not big into the whole market economic thing. I'm a casual observer of the stock market as it pertains to certain particular political things that I also follow. So, here's a few points that I'm going to present in this video, and you come to your own conclusions. And of course, I'm going to color this with my own perspective and opinion. I have my own biases, but just follow the money. I mean, look at this. So, in particular, you have Lockheed Martin, who are weapons manufacturers, right? Well-known weapons manufacturers. They make all kinds of things. Jets, you know, armored vehicles, ballistic missiles, ballistic missiles. And so their stock value jumped on April 7th. April 7th. What else happened on April 7th? Not coincidentally, the same day Trump ordered a strike on a Syrian airfield. Wow. Look at that. That's astounding. Based on some very dubious evidence of a chemical weapons attack, I might add, which has never been independently verified. They didn't even allow time for any type of independent verification to commence. They just bombed. So, yeah, follow the money. And the reason I bring this up is because usually everyone has an opinion, including myself, but if you really want to predict future events, particularly government actions, whether they be military actions or otherwise, such as infrastructure projects, what you want to look at are financial trends. So going back to what I was saying about being sort of a casual stock market observer, this is why you would want to look at this. You want to take in all data points. So, all right, next thing. Talk is cheap. Speaking of value of things, talk is cheap. Here's a clip that's really interesting. Remember this guy?
Look at what we've done to that land and to those people and the deaths that we've caused.
Afghanistan is a total and complete disaster. What are we doing? Get out of Afghanistan.
We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. They lied. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none.
Libya was a disaster from the standpoint of the way it was handled. I really understand what's going on in Syria. It's a total catastrophe. It's a total mess. And we're helping to make it a mess. Let Russia fight ISIS.
Strengthening and promoting Western civilization and its accomplishments will do more to inspire positive reforms around the world than military intervention.
Ah, yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. You know, I remember candidate Obama was a very different guy from President Obama as well. And as we can see, candidate Trump, a very different animal altogether from President Trump, as is always the case. And I've made this case many times in past videos. You know, talk is so cheap, man. Talk is so fucking cheap. And where is the big money going? So that's the question that you want to ask. That's how you issue a forecast. Where does the big money go? Follow the money. So on that note, we have this chicken hawk, chicken shit, Lindsey Graham, dropping hints about boots on the ground in Syria.
You are saying, however, that the United States ought to add 7,000 troops on the ground.
That we need more troops,
right,
like we have in Iraq.
Right, in Syria, like we have in Iraq,
yeah, right.
To depose Bashar al-Assad.
No, to defeat ISIL.
So not to affect regime change?
No, regime change comes when we train up Syrians.
Okay.
The Syrians will take care of Assad. ISIL's a direct threat to the homeland. Assad's not. I'm not suggesting that Bashar Assad is going to attack America. I do believe ISIL would if they could. And we have about 6,000, 7,000 troops in Iraq. And if we had about that same number, we could take Raqqa sooner and we wouldn't have this Kurd-Turkey fight. More Arabs would join the fight if you had more American troops. So I think you're going to see see a ramp-up of American troops, not as frontline fighters, but trainers, advisors, special forces to take ISIL down quicker. I'm proud of President
So
Trump.
a whole new war is what you're calling for?
No, an end to an old war.
And, you know, why should we trust his word? Because he's got insider info. And how would he know this? Because he's the tastemaker. And who's paying him to set the political trends? The big money people. The Lockheed Martins, the Boeings, the military-industrial complex. All of the myriad companies, corporations that make up the deep state and the military-industrial complex. Bankers. We know he's in the know because they're the ones who pay him to preach this garbage, to try and shape the public consciousness around these insane wars that destabilize the Middle East, that depose secular leaders so that their nations collapse and create power vacuums for people like ISIS, and create migrant crises which lead to all kinds of things. And we're seeing a cultural destabilization all over the place, which also plays into the military-industrial complex. I mean, just look at this thing about France. 50% of their army is in their streets. Do you think that's a coincidence? Fuck no. That is not a coincidence. Orwell, and it's so trite to have to say George Orwell or 1984, but this is what we're seeing. I mean, this is what we're seeing. Militarization. This is what they want. This is what the power elite want. And I hate to use the word elite as well, but that's what, I mean, who's in charge of these things? So, yeah, putting military boots on the ground, which we already have boots on the ground in Syria. A lot of people don't know this, but at this stage of the game, we're still calling them consultants, not soldiers. We're not officially recognizing it as military action, but it is. And why is this important? Again, let's look at the market. For those of you who do not know, Raytheon, they are a military contracting firm. And again, let's look at the date here. That magic April 7th date. There you go. Well. Would you look at that? There's a big surprise there. A spike in publicly traded Raytheon shares. Color me surprised. I mean, call me a conspiracy theorist if you will, but first, dispute my data points. That would strongly suggest further military actions in Syria. So don't be surprised when it happens. And the media is already priming the public's mind for war. We've been seeing it all over the place.
Go into greater detail. We see these beautiful pictures at night from the decks of these two U.S. Navy vessels.
What changed last night?
I think Donald Trump became President of the United States. I think this was actually a big moment.
I am tempted to quote the great Leonard Cohen, I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons.
I think that the moment when someone becomes President of the United States is the moment when they first really use American military might.
And they are beautiful pictures.
It is extraordinary that we launched missiles into a country where there were Russian troops.
That's right.
And that, of course, reframes some of the Russian-Trump debate.